Hey everyone, and welcome to this final episode for this season of Studio Sessions. In this last show, we dive deep into the fascinating world of our generation, Gen Z. I'm Sian Sivasundarasa, the Assistant Program Manager for Business and Financial Products at the Globe and Mail. Today I'm joined by Paki Ilawa, and our Junior Media Strategist, and Arash Chotia, our Junior Marketer at the Globe Content Studio, which is the marketing division of the Globe and Mail.
We see Gen Zs as a community of young people born between 1997 and 2012. Together, we're going to share what Gen Zs are saying about what we want to see from the brands that we love. We hope this episode leaves you with insights, ideas, takeaways that will maximize marketing to Gen Zs. We're going to explore the ever evolving landscape of forms of social media content, hyper personalization, and authenticity. The way this episode is going to run is we're going to keep asking each other questions and focusing on each topic. Let's dive right into it.
So we'll start with exploring how different forms and lengths of content capture our attention. So Paki, I was wondering if you could tell us what are some of the most popular forms of interactive content and mediums that Gen Zs are using to capture their attention.
Mhm. Interactive content helps in keeping audience engaged. Gen Z loves being a part of the process. As a brand, if you put include them in quizzes, polls, question answer sessions, they would just love that. I know if I'm a part of an online quiz or poll, I would love to see what the brand on the page does next. That encourages me to be more involved with the brand. When it comes to the medium of content, the best way for a brand to capture Gen Z's attention is to reach out to them where they are. And Gen Zs are mostly on applications like Snapchat, Instagram, and TikTok. These apps are heavily dependent on short form videos. And I think that's the best way to reach them.
That was awesome. Thanks, Paki. I can definitely agree. I'm on TikTok a lot, probably my most used app. But let's shift gears to short form content strategies and how brands can sort of utilize that. So, my next question for you is how can companies strategically leverage short form content to engage Gen Z and
Mhm.
communicate their unique offering in a way that sort of resonates with them?
Yep. Gen Z grew up in the era of instant gratification. We want everything to the touch of our hand. And this has led to a very short attention span. Most of us engage with short form videos, especially me. Like whenever I am opening Instagram, I directly go towards the side, the part of the Instagram where we just have reels, and I just spend most of my time just scrolling through reels. And I remember having a conversation with my sister where she would just talk to me about all the posts and the memes she saw because she'll be scrolling through the main feed where there are all the pictures and posts. She's my elder sister who is also a millennial. And compared to me, who always has been scrolling through videos, I just keep telling her about the recent video I just saw. So I think this way you can just see the comparison between the two generations right there.
Yeah, that was awesome. I also have an older sister, so definitely relatable in that sense. She's like 7 years older than me, so I'm always showing her the things I saw. But sort of leading on to my next question for you, what are some underrated content and platforms that Gen Z use that you see thriving in the next 5 to 10 years? And sorry, I mean underrated content that you see sort of thriving in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yes, I think there are still brands who don't really believe in social media yet. And that's why there are some stats which tell us that 84% of Gen Z are more likely to spend their time on online videos. We've grown up watching YouTubers more than daily soap operas. On the contrary, when it comes to millennials, or maybe our elder brothers and sisters, they spend more time watching TV shows and movies. When it comes to habits, millennials are more likely to watch and spend their time on movies. Hence, in the next few years, brands will have to focus more and more on short form videos. Talking about the future, we've delved into the various forms of content that capture Gen Z's attention. Let's shift our focus to another intriguing aspect, hyper personalization. As Gen Z craves experience tailored specifically to their interests and preferences, we'll explore how the digital landscape is evolving to meet these demands. Arash, can you tell us a little bit about hyper personalization and how do you think brands can do a better job to attract Gen Z's attention?
Yeah, for sure. So to talk a little bit about like hyper personalization, I want to talk about what hyper personalization is not. So hyper personalization is not the traditional forms of marketing we're used to, like the billboards, or even digital forms of marketing. Like I know we saw the Barbie or the Oppenheimer trailer. Like they look the same. It's not personalized to anybody. So hyper personalization is basically content and like products or services delivered personalized to each and every individual that's using it. So the user has a unique experience, and each and every person has something different. Some good examples of this is Amazon. Like their Amazon shopping page is different for every single person. Same with Netflix and TikTok. They're all tailor-made experiences based on algorithm, which is hyper personalized on what the user wants and what they like to do. So in that way, that's something that is really coming up, and what the brands should really be focusing on, because that's what Gen Zs really want.
That's actually really interesting. And further, I would like to know, what do you think are some key reasons that Gen Z desires personalized products and content rather than, mass marketed products and offerings?
Yeah, for sure. So the unique thing about Gen Z, and I know Gen Alpha, the one coming before us, will have the same situation, is that we were born like post internet. As soon as we were born, we had the internet at our fingertips. I know when I was growing up, we were playing games on like mini clip, and we had literally our whole life we've had the internet. We never had MySpace and MSN for social media, but I believe the first time I had any sort of like social platform was Instagram, say about 10 years ago when I was like 12 years old. And so basically what's interesting about Instagram is they had two pages at the time. Even now they have a bit more, but back then they
Mhm.
had about two pages. It was the people you followed,
Yeah.
and those are the people you interacted with, you commented on. Back then it was more like friends and people you knew, or the occasional influencer. And there was a explore page, and I the first time I saw some hyper personalized content was on the explore page. It would show me basically something that's similar to my interest, but it wanted me to explore new influencers or like similar things that I was familiar with. So that got translated to like Twitter, Facebook,
Mhm.
TikTok does a great job at it. And basically, we've had that for more than half of our life, and it's only gotten better and better. This personalized content only got better and better over time. And I think that's been baked into us and ingrained into the Gen Z, and even Gen Alpha will have that basically programmed in them to have that and expect that out of their brands. Yeah.
That was awesome. Thanks for sharing, Arash. And I also got Instagram. I think it was the first app that I got at a very young age,
Yeah.
embarrassingly so. And I remember being so blown away at like 13 years old by the Explore page and seeing all this content that sort of related to me, being so personalized. But kind of leading into my next question, what are some potential future developments or trends to anticipate in the realm of hyper personalization, do you think?
Yeah, for sure. I love this question because I love just talking about the future and all the interesting things that like are still to come, right? Because there's such an exciting path forward. I know a lot of people are worried about it, but it's so exciting. Like I remember I attended this collision conference about last month in Toronto. Basically, we all did, and it was 40,000 participants, and it's basically tech people coming from all around the world, investors and startups talking about their new like AI startups. And I remember sitting into a talk, and there was this guy from AT&T, the chief technology officer, Jeremy Legan. He was saying something really interesting about the current hyper personalization and the future of it. So he was giving an example of how they had this artificial intelligence chatbot, and it basically made a sale for AT&T. Like it sold the customer a package, and that was done for so much cheaper than say a actual person making the sales. Basically, the chatbot was asking the person questions, and they were responding, and they were like tailor making the entire experiences based on the robot's knowledge and the way it was communicating. So I thought that was really interesting. So definitely customer services is huge. Healthcare delivery, also personalizing that to each and every individual, because we want to be as accurate as possible and as personal as possible for really important things. I remember even seeing a LinkedIn post about 2 weeks ago, and it was basically a phone call, and it was like a example. of artificial intelligence robot talking, and it was speaking, and it sounded so human. It really sounded like a real person asking the person questions and trying to sell them the Tesla. Like, oh, hey, check, like, what car do you currently drive? What do you look for in a car? Basically probing and using these prompts that the person would respond with to basically give a tailor-made like sales experience and actually make the sale at the end of the day. So I think all companies, any company that has customers, have to look into like hyper personalizing the experience and also helping reduce cost for sure. Yeah. So now let's transition a little bit into authenticity because I'm really curious, Sion. I know you have a lot of great things to say on this topic. So let's talk about the importance of authenticity to Gen Zs. So how does Gen Zs define authenticity? Like, what even is it? Like, what is it really in the digital age? And are there specific traits or characteristics that Gen Zs value when it comes to authentic content or experiences?
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks, Arash. Awesome question. I think when it comes to authenticity, really at its core, it simply can be described as, having the quality of being authentic, or in other words, real. And of course, being authentic or real will sort of depend on the person who's perceiving it. But I think overall, when, someone experiences something authentic, they'll carry that moment with them. They'll remember it and they'll remember that experience. And for me, when I kind of look back on my life and look back at my childhood, if I can sort of share a moment from my childhood, my earliest memories of authenticity, I sort of get taken back to elementary school, to these multicultural celebrations that we had at my school, because this was like the first time I saw my friends and classmates be a little bit more real and real
Mhm.
to their cultures. Um, and, and I really saw these students, represent their culture in terms of food, music, and clothes. Like, I remember being exposed to different types of Asian cuisine for the first time, which I feel like in retrospect led me to being the foodie I am today, but that's like a different conversation. But, that being said, I really just think you always remember authentic moments more vividly. And, my own experience aside, I think if we add some research into the mix, an authentic brand in the eyes of a Gen Z consumer sort of encompasses a few different traits. So one of them being a brand that sort of makes something other than, or sorry, a brand that stands for something other than making a profit. I think that's really important to Gen Zs. Another way is a brand that sort of helps improve something in the world or kind of offers a unique perspective to the world, as well as a brand that's also transparent and kind of takes you behind the scenes. I think Gen Zs are really appreciating that, myself included. I love when brands sort of kind of give you a sneak peek and show you the other lens.
Yeah.
And finally, another sort of trait that kind of ties into this, and I know I've said real quite a few times, but another sort of trait would be, a brand that keeps it real, not in terms of its products, but in terms of its communication and its advertising as well. So, I hope that sort of answers the question, and that's how I would sort of describe authenticity.
Yeah, for sure. That gives me such a good, like, clear understanding. I love the school example. I feel like schools do such a great job with like bringing out the culture and just delivering an authentic experience to their students. So I completely agree. So, see, my other question would be, how can brands effectively demonstrate their authenticity to Gen Zs? Like, have you seen any successful strategies or approaches that you've seen like brands do really well?
Oh my gosh, yes. As soon as you ask this question, like a few different brands are already coming to my head, but I think one that really takes the cake and one that I always think of is Duolingo. So I don't know if you guys know what Duolingo is, or you haven't, or if you've seen any of their TikToks, but it's basically, a language learning application. So you're like, okay, like how can a language learning app be authentic to an audience? Because, language learning, like it doesn't really seem like it'll fit, but let me tell you, they basically created a TikTok page, if you guys are not familiar with their mascot. And their mascot for the company is an owl, and it was like front and center. And I'm talking, this owl was like busting it down. Like, they were posting dancing videos, memes. The owls was sort of participating in different TikTok trends, and they were kind of adding their own spin to it. And, I'm talking like an actual owl mascot, like someone dressed in that costume. And when people would like comment on these videos or make duets, the owl or the page as the owl would respond and and kind of engage in that conversation as well. So I think it was really smart. Duolingo really created this whole persona for the app, and to me at least, it was very authentic and fun. Um, and to the point where I even considered getting Duolingo. And prior to this, I never thought I wanted to learn another language, and now I'm at the time I was like, okay, like maybe I need to get Duolingo. It seems so fun. So I think with all that being said, I definitely do think brands are sort of hopping on TikTok and establishing a brand presence on there to sort of leverage producing authentic content. And I think this is because TikTok is sort of known for that. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people sort of go to TikTok to see that type of unique short form content. And if we really bring some research into the mix, there was actually a 2021 study done by Nielsen that I'd love to share. And basically, it showed that users around the world, in particular, or in pertains to TikTok, they found that it was more authentic and unique compared to other platforms. So users around the globe actually found TikTok content to be more authentic and engaging and genuine. And they even tested this against advertising and brand sort of TikToks, and people still found it to be more genuine and authentic than other platforms. So I thought that's really telling, and that is really telling. And if we sort of look at the numbers, I can sort of share with you guys, 64% of TikTok users say they can be their true selves on TikTok, while an average of 56% say they can post videos on TikTok that they wouldn't be able to post anywhere else. So I think TikTok is definitely a brand, or technically a platform brand could
Yeah.
effectively use to sort of, target authenticity to Gen Z for sure. So I hope that answered that question.
Yeah, definitely. In fact, I'm so glad you brought up Duolingo. It was just like for a throwback moment for me because I remember watching all the reels that you mentioned. And I
Yeah.
say reels because in India, we don't have TikTok. So I couldn't see all those through TikTok. But the fact that everything that's famous on TikTok kind of ends up coming on Instagram, I am telling you, I actually fell for those marketing strategies by Duolingo. I downloaded Duolingo. I started trying to learn something from Duolingo. So honestly, they were very successful in that. From my side, at least, I can say that. And
Yeah.
discussing all the strategies and approaches for brands that effectively demonstrate authenticity to Gen Z. Do you want to transition our focus towards the crucial role of user generated content or UGC, and maybe how UGC can be used to establish trust and rise of influencer marketing? Do you-
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think that user-generated content plays a significant role in establishing trust between Gen Z and brands.
Mhm.
So I guess when we look at UGC as a whole, it really comes down to brand-specific content put out by people rather than the masses. And influencers, I think they really play into that heavily because they serve as a more authentic voice, at least to most. And it sort of bridges that gap, I think, between a brand and its audience. So when we look at the numbers from one study that I found, 63% of Gen Zers say they prefer to see real people rather than celebrities in ad. I definitely agree to that, and I feel like you guys probably do as well. And this study was done in 2019, I think, so a few years ago, and that was pre-COVID, pre-TikTok dominance. So I feel like that percentage has most likely increased as well. And many of these real people that I keep on alluding to, they really have been able to build followings for themselves and kind of become influencers and serve as a voice for these brands. And I feel like this is best sort of demonstrated by an example, if I may.
Mhm.
And one influencer that really comes to mind is Emma Chamberlain. If you guys are not familiar, she started off as a YouTuber. I think it was back in 2017. And kind of when she started, at that time, lifestyle content was pretty popular. And she kind of attempted to follow into those footsteps, kind of reproduce in a way the videos that were already trending at the time. And, of course, this content wasn't authentic to her, if you know anything about Emma Chamberlain. And at the time, it didn't work and she didn't take off. And then after that, she really decided to take a step back and sort of start making content that was more real to her. And I think what was really interesting about this is that she really showed what a real teenager was like. In 2017, I think she was like 16 or 17 years old, so she
Mhm.
was so young, and she really acted like a teenager. She would cuss in her videos. I think she would show her pimples, like her hair would be unkempt sometimes. Like she would dress very casually as any teenager would. And I think through this, people really felt like they had a friend in Emma, and she really felt like a girl you knew in real life. Like, I was in high school at that time, and I'm like, wow, like she's like girls and guys that I know in real life, not perfect.
Mhm.
And I think through that, she really was able to sort of garner success and, get millions of followers and, of course, brand partnerships. And it kind of shows that with all the brand partnerships that she has now, brands are really trying to, leverage authenticity to establish a larger sense of trust
Mhm.
and the like trust between brands and the audience. And now she has a deal with like Louis Vuitton. She has her own company. Like I think she just hosted the Met Gala red carpet.
Yeah.
So it kind of shows that that like UGC is very important and kind of links that between authenticity as well. But to sort of wrap up all that, I think with all that being said, it's really worth noting that remaining authentic in terms of your content um, is very important to Gen Zs. I think we all can appreciate, authentic content, especially, with TikTok and all these apps and kind of the push of that. It's never been more relevant. So, yeah, I think authenticity is definitely something that a lot of brands should be sort of looking towards.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing, Sion. Thanks for sharing. So because we have some extra time, we wanted to give the viewers a bit of a gift because I know we have a lot of people, all different age groups, and when we were setting up this chat, I know a lot of people came up to me and they were like, "Oh, I like, are you guys gonna discuss like Gen Z lingo? Because like the lingo is always changing, right?
Yeah.
So we want to know like what's like the coolest and like the hep lingo, like are people actually using the lingo or is it just something that like boomers write that like, oh, Gen Z's use this kind of lingo? So what we wanted to do is basically go through a couple words and phrases that people claim Gen Z use
Yeah.
and give what they mean and kind of talk about like, are we still using them or are we not using them? So the first word, fit check. Do we use that? Fit check?
Oh my God. Almost every other weekend, whenever I'm just like dressing up to go out with my friends or something, there's just a fit check always.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, fit check. I think fit check is just, especially when you like, you know that you look good and you love your outfit and you're feeling it
Yeah.
and you want to share it. You go on Snapchat, Instagram, you're like, fit check, like this is what
Yeah.
I'm wearing. Like I remember my first day of this internship, I dressed up in a nice blue shirt and new pants and everything new. And I went on my story and I'm like, fit check, first day at the Globe and Mail. So definitely use that a lot.
Yeah. No, I definitely do that with like, so it's like outfit check. So just like
Hmm.
how well do I look? Like how dapper do we look? So no, definitely we use that. This is a new one. This is a new one for me. It's giving. Like I feel like I hear that like it's giving
Oh
this,
my
it's giving
gosh.
that.
I
Oh.
love It's Giving. I use It's
Yeah,
Giving
it's
like
giving.
quite regularly. Like sometimes
Yeah,
at work it's really hard to like not use it because
yeah,
it's just part of my vocabulary that, It's Giving. Basically, it's so hard because when I say It's Giving, it's like It's Giving, like that is the definition. But
Mhm.
basically when something you kind of like something, if someone like has a nice outfit, you'd be like, "Oh wow, that outfit's giving. Like I like that outfit." Or someone kind of gives like sometimes I'll say a joke and my friend will be like, "Oh, that joke was giving," and I'm like, "Oh, okay," like kind of giving added value. So yeah, I don't
Mhm.
know
yeah.
about you, Pocky.
Honestly, I like with Arash, it's giving was very new to me, and I think I just now that you explained what it's giving means, I finally got it. Otherwise, I was whenever somebody would just say, "Oh my God, this is it's giving," and I would just sit and like wonder for a second what that means. But I
Yeah.
think like Gen Z lingo is always evolving, so it's like it's a little difficult to keep up.
Yeah, for sure. Like,
Yeah.
I completely agree, Pocky. I feel like even like we are always like trying to grapple with what different
Mm-hmm.
terms mean because they mean a certain thing, and
Mm-hmm.
they slowly evolve. Like, I like it's giving, and then like some people can say like, oh, it's giving like bad vibes. Like, oh, it's giving creep vibes. Like, this guy's giving creep vibes, for example.
Yeah.
So like, it definitely depends on the context, but yeah, it's like this is the kind of vibes it's giving.
Yeah.
Um, and then one more, era. So like this is
Oh.
this era, you know?
Oh my God, era is such a common one nowadays. I don't know if it's because of the Taylor Swift era going on or the Eras tour, but it's just I feel like it's the thing right now. What do you think, Sian?
Like,
Yeah, definitely just to describe the phase of life that you are in. Like right now I'm in my Globe and Mail era, like as I described to
yeah,
my friends, my internship era, my co-op
yeah,
era. But
Yeah.
I mean, I love era, and I feel like I definitely saw it being used a lot more after Taylor Swift announced her
Mhm.
tour, and I love Taylor Swift, so I was happy, more than happy to jump on it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, era, like we're all in our Globe and Mail era right now, guys, our
yeah,
internship
yeah,
era.
yeah.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like a movie, like when there's a movie or a TV show, and
Mhm.
there's like an arc, Like I know in a lot of animes, there's like a this sort of arc, like a character arc where they're going through a certain thing, like they're training, it's like that's the training era, or like working out era.
Yeah.
So it gives you like a arc vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
so yeah, we
So I
have
think to
one.
wrap up, we should definitely, we kind of talked about our different perspective in terms of branding. So I feel like maybe we could say like one thing that, is important to branding to each of us. So I think for me, I said authenticity like so many times. So if the audience could take away one thing is be authentic to your content. I feel like sometimes it's hard because, you do want to, put out, you think it's not authentic, you might be like, oh, it might be cringe, and the audience might not take it the right way. But I think most of the times, if you can kind of make authentic real to your company, it's definitely more, it's definitely worth it. And I think the audience, especially a Gen Z audience, will be able to tell, and the company or brand or whatever will be able to sort of benefit from that. But
Mhm.
Hockey, if you wanted to add on to that.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So, I think from my part, I would just love to say that I know marketing is a very dynamic world and it's very important to keep evolving with time. And as of now, it's the era to be in the short form videos and be a part of the short form content. So I think it's time for brands to shift from long form traditional marketing and give a little towards short form videos. What about you, Arash?
Yeah, for sure. I completely agree with both of you.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing I would add is I know we always say this, but just like constantly, I feel like the best experiences for me is when the brand or the company like they just get it, you know, like they're grassroots. They're really trying to like understand the new generation and really asking questions. Because I find there's a big difference between like really wanting to get down and just like acting like it. So I
Mm-hmm.
feel like just getting really always staying grassroots is something like really important for
Yeah,
everybody. Yeah.
that's true.
So just to wrap it up, that concludes our final episode of this season. We've embarked on an incredible journey exploring the captivating world of content forms, hyper personalization, and authenticity in the Gen Z landscape. As we wrap up this season, we want to express our deepest gratitude to all of our listeners, guests, and experts who have joined us on this exploration. Your support and engagement have made this show truly special, and we want a special thank you to our studio sessions producer and mentor Dio Kafense. Thank you so much for helping making this happen. Stay connected with us on social media and on our website, where we'll be sharing updates on future episodes. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. Yay.
Thank you.